Hello, welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to create your very first workbook in Microsoft Excel. You will learn how to create a new workbook, save your work properly, use the save as features, and understand the different file formats Excel uses. These are essential skills that every Excel user needs from day one. Let's get started. Now, before we go deep into this, let's talk about what a workbook is. A workbook is simply an Excel file that contains one or more worksheets. I'm going to explain what a worksheet is in a couple of minutes. Now, see a workbook as a notebook you have, and inside that notebook, you have multiple pages. So a workbook is one single Excel file. Now, inside this workbook, you then have what we call worksheets. Now, this worksheet can be one or can be more. So an example of this is you can have an Excel file which you called monthly budget. Now inside this monthly budget, you can now have different sheets. A sheet to undo January monthly budget, another worksheet to undo February monthly budget, another sheet to undo March monthly budget, sorry. So this is how a workbook works. Inside a workbook, you now have multiple or one worksheet. So how do you create a workbook? Now there are two different ways in which you can create a workbook. The first one is when you launch Excel for the very first time. So when you launch Excel for the very first time, you have the same thing you have which you are seeing on my screen. Now depending on the version of Microsoft Excel you are using will determine how the interface will look like. But all Microsoft Excel gives you the same thing. You get what we call a welcome screen. Now on this welcome screen, you are asked to create a blank document, which you can see here, or you're asked to use different templates that comes with Microsoft Excel. So this is one way in which we can create a new worksheet. So I'm going to stick to blank document. I'm going to then say create. So when I create now I'm having my very first workbook. Now inside this workbook, I'm having just one worksheet, which is then called sheet 1. Now if I want to create another worksheet in this my workbook, I just click on the plus sign beside sheet 1, then this gives me sheet 2. So now I'm having multiple worksheets in my workbook. One is called sheet 1, the other one is called sheet 2. Now apart from using the welcome screen to create a new workbook, what happens when you want to create a new workbook and you already have Microsoft Excel opened? So there's another way in which you can create a new workbook in this method by using what we call a keyboard command. Now if you are using Windows, you use what we call Control N, while if you are using Mac, you use Command N. So when you do Command N, it automatically creates you a new workbook. So currently now I have two workbooks created. Again, how you know why the different workbook you have? If I go to the top here, you see I'm having book 7 here, and if I come to my worksheet, I'm only having just one worksheet compared to the one I was working with before, which is book 6. As you can see here, there I add two worksheets. So there's sheet 1, there's sheet 2. So using this keyboard shortcut would enable you create a new worksheet if you have Excel launched. So that's another way you can create a new worksheet when you have Excel launched. So how do you save your file? So let's say, for example, I'm done working with my Excel by creating a monthly budget. Now I want to save this file so that I can use them later in the future. I'm going to also use what we call a keyboard command. Now if you are using Windows, you do Control S. But if you're using Mac, you do Command S. So when you do Command S, you have a dialog that comes up like this and asks you to give your file a name. So how you know that is telling you save as. So what do you want to save this Excel file as? So I'm going to just call this monthly budget. Then it's going to ask me where do I want to save this my Excel file is. I'm going to save it on my desktop. Then the last part is going to ask me what format that I want to save my Excel file as. So I can easily leave the default one, which is I want to save this file as an Excel workbook. I can decide to select different formats. So there is a format for Excel for older version of Excel. So if you want to use a format of older version of Excel which ends with .xls, which was used between 1997 to 2004. So if you want to use that format of Excel that format of Excel workbook, you can then just select this one and say, okay, I don't want to use the current format of Excel. I want to use the format being used between 1997 and 2004. If you don't want that, there's another format called CSV. So CSV is also a way in which you can save your Excel format, but helps you limit the amount of commas you can add into your document. So in case you don't want to do that, you can save this as a work page. But because I'm not saving as web page, I'm going to just cancel that. So if I don't want to do that, I can select different from I can say, okay, I just want to create my own Excel template. Because when I launch my Excel, I have different templates Excel gives to me. What if I want to create my own template? I can then say, okay, this monthly budget I just finished creating, I want to save it as a template. So that anytime I need to create a monthly budget, I don't need to start from scratch again. I can just go to my template, bring it up, and just make one or two changes to it. But for this, I'm going to stick to, I can even save it as PDF. So this simply means I don't want them to be able to edit the content in case I don't want to save it as Excel. So I'm going to just leave it as Excel workbook, which is the default way of saving my work. Then I'm going to just click on save. So this is how you then save your workbook. Then there's also a concept called save as. Now, in the previous classes, I talked about your quick access toolbar, which is here. So in case I don't want to use the command and S or Control and S, I can use that to quickly save my work. So this is for save and this is for save as. So if I click on save as, it's saying I already have this workbook, but I want to create another version of this workbook. So it's giving me the same format. So I can just call this monthly budget 2. So the first time I saved this work, I created a workbook called monthly budget. Now I want this my workbook to be in two different places. So I want monthly budget 1 and monthly budget 2. So I then use what we call the save as. So save as is a feature you have in Excel that help you create a duplicate of an existing workbook you already have in Excel, and you give it a different name and also save it. So now you are now having two different workbooks that you can then work with anytime you want. So I'm just going to save this as monthly workbook. So this is how you can create your very first workbook, and you can also use the save as features. Thank you. I'll see you in the next class.